It's coronation weekend. Long live the king. Is that Charles? Is it Virat Kohli? We don't know. We've got a couple of beers. On this podcast, we're going to look into Rob's mind. And that's me, if you've not guessed. I'm Rob Taylor. He's George Bottomley. We're the 212th men. Thank you for joining us. Good evening, Bot.
Good evening.
Who's the king then, Charles or Kohli?
Kohli. King Kohli. Keep the Indian fan base on side.
Did you watch The Crown?
Oh, yes.
There's a scene, I think, when Lord Mountbatten's trying to sort of guide a young Charles in life.
Right, yeah.
And I think he sort of propositions him for Eton. And with that, he gets him a load of cricket gear.
Right.
And I just don't think it ever quite fitted his mold.
Yeah.
He's more of a polo man.
Yeah, I don't see Charles as an athlete in general, do you?
No. How are you spending the coronation weekend? Will you be in a pub? Will you be raising a pint to the king?
Is it this weekend?
Yes, this weekend.
Yeah.
It's Monday the 8th.
The
Aussie Prime Minister's over. He's been talking with Piers Morgan about Ashes talk and Republican talk and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Republican. Yeah, I reckon we keep it to the cricket for this one, for this podcast.
So you've seemed to have I arrived at your terraced house in Monton this evening. You poured me a beer. Like, I don't know, have you took like a bit of sympathy on me? Is this something you want to talk to me about?
Yeah, there's a real elephant in the room on this podcast. There has been for quite a few weeks now. You struggle with the cricket in April, don't you? It's not taking your fancy. Mm-hmm. We're therefore struggling with the content of the podcast. And I want to get into it. What is wrong with cricket that's not English cricket, English international cricket? And can we find you a solution for April so we don't have this drought every April? So what's the matter, Rob? Come on, tell me.
It's been an unusual period because I think we've grown up working along an international type of calendar. And obviously, as everybody knows and everybody sees, we've had a real emergence over the years of franchise leagues being squeezed in at every opportunity. Yeah. The IPL is very elongated. Yeah. It's getting bigger and bigger, and it will continue to grow. And with that, bulldoze a lot of international fixtures in the way. So I think for a long time, I've kind of felt a little bit out of touch with the game, and
curmudgeonly.
Yeah, sort of questioning sort of where's my key enjoyment here? And is that sort of being squeezed? Is it sort of being pushed out of my eyesight in certain months of the year to make way for something that I struggle to sort of to connect with? I say,
yeah,
we've had chats about the 100 and we've had chats about the IPL, and in the UK we're a country that's very much sort of adopts its affinity by its geographical location, where you're from, your parents' sort of allegiance, and that's something with the IPL I find really difficult to sort of come to terms with a little bit.
Yeah.
So I get the hype by it all. I get the the pandemonium in India, and I get that it's by far the most successful league, probably the most successful entity in the whole of cricket.
Yeah.
But right now, you look at where we're at from a nation point of view. I think we're at the stage where we could probably make an assumption that most people in the UK are a little bit carefree about it. And whether that matters or not is another question.
Yeah, I don't think that will matter for the IPL's longevity. I suppose as a cricket fan, I'd ask you: is it just English cricket that you're bothered about, or could the IPL ever take your fancy? Is there anything? Because I watch it quite a bit. It's more interesting. I've said on the pod before when there's England players playing. Livingston hit Archer for 3 consecutive sixes today. Archer wasn't bowling at his best. It was a bit worrying ahead of a jam-packed schedule for England. And Livingston looked in really good form after struggling in the IPL this year so far.
Yeah,
I don't mind that. And also, I think cricket, we watch a lot of cricket, which is in empty stadiums. The IPLs are never in an empty stadium. It's always jam-packed.
Yeah.
Do you just have to give it a try? Give the IPL a chance?
I think you do. If you've got the time to devote to it.
Yeah.
Like you work from home, I'm not saying that throughout your working day, you're watching the IPL. Because, of course, you're busy in your professional job, as we know. But I think you have to probably get over that initial investment. Yeah. That initial sort of, some of the things I've said, some of the alien things that you might be a little bit uncomfortable with, for instance, you're not familiar with all of the teams and the history of those and how they performed in previous years. But I think if you made a proper investment to really try and get into it, I think you could develop that sort of affinity. I guess what it doesn't do, it doesn't immediately catch all audiences beyond the Indian market. I think I won't be alone if I could speak. We were talking about downstairs when we had some pizza. A friend of ours, he sort of sits in my boat. He indirectly can't connect to the IPL.
Yeah. So the county championship then.
Can I just give you my biggest bugbear with the IPL and franchise cricket? It's diluting the achievements of international cricket from all the glorious decades that we've had. So if you think of it right now, Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad, complete stalwarts in the England Test team. Over 500 wickets with the pair, over 1,000 wickets with the pair of them. Tendulkar, you look at Jack Callis, all these records, are well and good. But what it's caused is a lot of the nations to ultimately play less Test cricket. And as a result of that, a team like South Africa and Pakistan, they're almost never in contention now to ever compete with some of those big records. And that's what excites me with a young player in international cricket, the fact that they could one day go on and make over 30 hundreds in Test cricket, or they could go on in one day and win more World Cups than Ricky Ponting as captain. Because the opportunities are now being limited from nations outside the big three, that is somewhat, again, diluting the overall product of that. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's definitely a threat that we're all aware of to international cricket. I suppose the IPL owners might push back on you and say, would we know about Dewald Brevis if Mumbai hadn't taken him under their wing and given him a platform and as close to international quality cricket as you can? And he's proved himself at that platform to a certain degree. Marco Janssen, Dwayne Janssen, Tristan Stubbs. Lots of these new young South Africans are developing themselves on the world stage at the IPL level, and maybe the IPL owners could say, well, that will make South Africa a better Test side.
I don't know, but I guess what bothers me is every time there's a home series in the UK, myself, we always try and make an effort to go to them and enjoy a great day out, which it always is, isn't it? But every year I've seen a less sort of fancy version of a touring side come over, and they've slowly receded from the side that they once were. West Indies, it happened first time round. I think there's a famous series, isn't there, where they toured Australia and they got absolutely pummeled, which can happen in Australia. But I think it was Chris Gale, I think Marlon Samuels, and a couple of few others were actually playing in the Big Bash at that time.
Yeah.
So they were obviously underutilised. You see what I mean?
No, yeah, I agree. It's a difficult conversation to have because it constantly looms that underlying knowledge that we all have that franchise cricket is having a detrimental impact on the value of Test cricket.
We're in a transitional stage, aren't we? I think a counter argument, so I guess to back up what you're saying, is someone like Graham Smith will say, well, having a franchise league and having our players go to the IPL supplements their income, and thus, will create more opportunities to allow them to make time to play for South Africa and want to.
Yeah, it's what narrative you want to believe. Do you believe that the franchises are lining the players' pockets or giving them security, financial security, that allows them to kind of invest time in Test cricket? I think probably what we've seen in most walks of life is people want to work less time, earn more money, and therefore we'll see more franchise cricket. But that's by the by. You're a man of tradition. Next up on the list of your options is the county championship.
Yeah.
So we're 3 rounds into the county championship, 2 rounds into, I think it's 2 rounds into the county championship now.
Cold, wet.
Ben Fowkes is leading the averages in Division 1.
Yep.
Averaging 107 with a bat. So you'll be happy ahead of the Ashes
with
that performance. And we've seen lots of batting performances. Keaton Jennings has been scoring runs. Ben Fowkes has been scoring runs. Rehan Ahmed's been scoring runs. Zach Crawley's been scoring runs. And usually, ahead of an Ashes summer, this would feel like a real moment where everyone's contesting for those spots. Everyone's vying for a place in that Ashes side. So why is the county championship not taking your liking? Go on.
It's almost a victim of success of the England team because there's so many people performing. They've been so immaculate since Brendan McCullum took over. The squad is almost picking itself. So right now, Ben Stokes has gone on air and physically said that I could probably name you my 16, 17-man squad now.
Yeah.
I could name you my 11 maybe. I think he's very set in stone of who he rates and who he probably thinks, needs to go away and perhaps work a little bit harder. It's always sort of gateway to county cricket has always been, where is the continuity for the England international sides? That's my honest sort of way in there. I don't passionately follow Lancashire. They're our local county. I want them to do very well. I've got friends who play county cricket. But there seems to be almost like a case of this is very exhibitionary. At the time where we're heading into the biggest test series that will England play, which, by the way, reasons to be cheerful. I think the Ashes is as big as it's ever been, in terms of you could look at it from, it's still a glorious product. Both nations are massively passionate about it. But it's with county cricket this year, it seems like it's almost not coexisting with any connection with that. It's almost a separate entity, which we know it is because, it's a league in itself or it's two divisions within itself. But someone can have an absolute blinder and there's no real sort of chance for that raised platform bar injury. And if we look at recent injuries, Keaton Jennings, I believe, has got injured for Lancashire.
Yeah.
You could say he was one of the names on the periphery of actually breaking into the squad due to good county form. That's one person now moved out the way. So does it actually make Ben Duckett, Zach Crowley's kind of place in the side more secured? So it's even more predictable, I guess. So, sorry for the monologue. But...
No. It's interesting. So if I asked you how many county games have you been to,
mm-hmm.
How many have you been to?
When, the last year or?
No, ever.
Ever?
Yeah.
I'd say I could count them on one hand.
How many of them have been 4-day cricket, red ball cricket?
I think about one.
One. Yeah. I've been to one. I went to a day of Surrey and Lancashire down at the Oval.
It's a tough thing to follow, isn't it, if you're working? It's a very much it's pensionable, suitable hours.
It is, but usually it's Thursday to Sunday, so 50% of the matches on a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, as fans who are sat here moaning about franchise cricket, saying how much we love red ball cricket, we should take more part in being a stakeholder for the game? It's pretty cheap. It's usually, I don't know, it's a lot less than going watching low league football sides. I think, I don't know.
It's $10 a smell.
Yeah, around that. Yeah. If it ever gets over 20 quid for a red ball match, you could blow me over with a feather. I think it's a pretty reasonable price for a day. Do you think that we should go to more games? Do you think we should push ourselves and say, well, we moan all the time about franchise cricket when it's a sunny Saturday?
Yeah.
And Lancashire are playing Hampshire.
Yeah.
Decent players, James Vince, Liam Dawson, Matt Parkinson's for Lancashire, Keaton Jennings, Josh Bohannon, good players. Should we be going?
Probably should. Yeah, we should.
Would you go?
Yeah, probably would.
What stops you from going?
I think what stops you from going is that there is little sort of passion regarding the overall result.
Right.
So, you can completely fall into the rhythm of a test match, can't you? If you're watching England versus whoever, New Zealand, Australia, you're gripped by the drama and the twists and turns. Geoffrey Boycott always described it as like a game of chess.
Yeah.
That goes on for 5 days. There's twists and turns. You bat twice, you bowl twice. Something's on the line. Because, like I said, going back to it, my sort of gateway to county cricket is like a centre of excellences for going into the international side. The results are a bit secondary. So going to the game almost feels secondary. So you can kind of digest it in bite-sized format. Do you see what I mean there? So, recently, I think over COVID, they introduced live YouTube screening of these things. And that's great. That's a great way to access it. I believe the viewing figures were brilliant, by the way, weren't they? Because what that probably tells you is that people do have a good interest and a strong interest in the counties, but time commitment is always hard.
Yeah, and I suppose what I'd challenge you there, I think the YouTube thing streams are really good. I think they give you a really good option to skip about, and if you are just an England-centric national side fan, you can skip around and watch a bit of Ben Foakes, skip and watch a bit of Haseeb Mahmeed at Nottingham, see who your favourites are in the county game, who's playing. I think that's a good thing. Now, what I'd challenge us to do as cricket fans is say, well, if Ollie Pope is coming up to Lancashire, why are we not going and getting a ticket to watch Ollie Pope? He's the best young player around. Could we not be, saying, well, Ollie Pope's definitely going to bat today. It's a nice day. He's going to have a couple of beers at Old Trafford. Watch the cricket.
And we said this before, and this was probably what made the 100 emerge. My criticism, I'm sure many people will disagree with me there, but of all the talk of cricket moving with the times, you've seen the innovation that's in the IPL now with like substitutes, there's fireworks, there's music.
Yeah.
You know, there's still no music in
Really
English Test
important
matches,
stuff.
but you know what I'm trying to do is how do
Yeah.
the reason the 100 was sort of developed was to make a day at the cricket more entertaining for the average fan who isn't that engaged. So where they can go and have a drink, they can socialise with the mates.
Yeah.
Is county cricket not still in that for live spectating fans? Is it still not moved with the times?
So do you think there's too big of a gap between the production that's put on for the 100 to get people in and county championship? Is it like going to Parklight Festival?
Yeah, well,
versus going to.
Did you see Live Golf in Adelaide?
I'm aware of Live Golf, but I haven't seen.
So Live Golf, for anyone that doesn't follow golf, is the breakaway of overseas investment that's prized so many players away from the PGA Tour. It's caused a right ripple in golf. One of the biggest ambassadors for that is Phil Mickelson, who's a middle-aged man, won many majors, very, very successful, very wealthy person, but seems to have turned into this sort of like Peter Pan kind of like golf should be a bit of a party and an atmosphere. There's a DJ on in Adelaide, and it does resemble like Creamfield or something like that. And all these people, all these young, like vibrant Australians, are going watching a sport that's notoriously snobby, and notoriously quite selective and very exclusive, only to members, that kind of thing. And there's generally a festival going on.
What do you think of that? Well, how's that make you feel in terms
the brand of music? Isn't something that I'm dying to see. But what I'm saying is, does it get a more? Look at Manchester now, for example. So if you go have a red ball game on at Manchester, Old Trafford, probably a couple of hundred on, maybe 1,000 at a push, something like that. How can you get the work crowd in? Or how can you get someone on the lunch break? Or how can you get people who are on days off, or people that just want to slip in for an hour on the lunch break? Can you put, various food stalls on there? Can you turn it in? Like you look at what Tottenham Hotspur do in their stadium now. There's a food market in the ground. There's a Beavertown brewery there. Life is a lot different than what it was in the 1950s.
And you're a big one on tradition.
Yeah.
How does it make you feel? To take the golf example as an example and then put it onto cricket.
Yeah. Live cricket.
How does live golf make you feel? It's prizing the best players away from the PGA Tour, or some of them. It's got Calvin Harris, for example, playing at the side.
Yeah. That's generally what it was like.
Yeah. How does that make you feel as a golf fan? Do you think it's good for golf? Do you wish that? Are you a Rory McIlroy and you wish that the PGA Tour kind of had a level of integrity and remained how it was? What do you want there?
I think you can keep traditions though, modernise. So while we're on coronation weekend, the always big debate is, can the monarchy modernise and can it cope with modern day Britain, modern day world? Cricket has to have that conversation, and I don't see why the two things can't coincide. You can still have, 5-day cricket, red balls. You don't have to have blasting music on for the Ashes because maybe maybe you do, maybe you bring it in, maybe you bring something like that in. But the concept and the competition and the rivalry. As long as that's maintained, I don't see why you can't have these audiences and bring new ones with you. Me and you, and we're going to cover a little bit about the 100 in this show. Me and you have always been a little case of the cricket purists of the world should probably not be too snobby about the 100 because what it was trying to achieve. Trying to bring a different audience in there.
Do you think, right, so if we go watching a test match at Old Trafford, probably get the cheapest.
UK home tests aren't a problem.
No, but hear me out on this. We probably get the cheapest tickets in the Foster's Party stand.
Yeah.
Right.
What show us up on this?
Yeah. But we do.
This is when we don't go corporate.
Yeah. I wish.
Yeah.
And we get a few beers. Everyone has a few beers, having a laugh, and by the end of it, the Foster's Party stand, songs going on. It's like a football match.
Yeah.
Right. So what's the difference between, half the crowd aren't watching anymore at 3 p.m.
Yeah,
they're all singing.
That's not true, is it?
No, but
it depends on the ebbs and flows of the game.
Yeah,
you can have dry periods, can't you? Where no wickets are going. And it's a bit like beer snakes are out and all that. Yeah,
to a degree. Yeah, they can get those times at 3 p.m. at the Test match where everyone's lost a bit of focus and they're just having a party and they're singing. What's the difference really between that and having a bit of music on? There's not much, is it? It's just creating an atmosphere.
No.
Either the fans are creating an atmosphere or the DJs creating the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Now, maybe not at Lords.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there are some kind of sacred cows where you say
Yeah.
might not be ready for it yet.
And that's good. That's good to maintain as well, Lords.
Yeah.
Because people come for the experience.
Yeah, and Lords was a much different experience to Old Trafford.
Yeah.
When we went last year,
Mm-hmm.
and I would say that it was an experience that I really enjoyed in terms of not having that Foster's party stand, and being really kind of tuned into the cricket.
It was unique, wasn't it?
Yeah. Now, do you think that 5 men and the dog at the county championship game will have 5,000 and a dog if we have music playing? Do you think it'll make a difference to the county championship?
What, to the actual
the attendance? If I modernised it tomorrow and I said, right,
you're putting food stalls
George
out.
Bottomley, right, I'm getting all the food vendors, street vendors, making a market. Come on down. Get some music playing in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not even in the stadium, but let's have like around the stadium, get some music going, get it nice and loud. People milling in and out. Would that get more people in?
I think it would. And I think you've got to
because when I described it, it
sounds
really
like a good day out. Yeah. But it's one of those, isn't it? What sort of keeps the wolf away from the door for a lot of counties is the revenue they make off T20 cricket.
Yeah.
Why do they make money off T20 cricket? Because people think it's a better day out. They can come, they can have a laugh, they can go with the mates. There's still that distance between that traditional county fan. Yeah. And we look at figures of memberships, they are wavering. A lot of them are retired people. A lot of people will sort of express interest, but still not go.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like
yourself.
Us. Yeah, like us. Yeah, like us. So there's got to be some kind of there's a reason. So I given my reasons to this, to why I think that I'm currently not as engaged as I thought. But that's obviously because I think that there's no direct routes to the Ashes. But the wider picture is, if that's not in place, what's your other incentive to go?
And the other thing is, with the county championship this summer, we've seen more and more counties taking on the Bazball approach.
Mm-hmm.
There've been some risky declarations.
Yep.
The point system, without going into too much details, have been set up that it's devalued a draw a little.
Yeah.
It's incentivizing.
Kookaburras being thrown in there, aren't they?
Kookaburras have been thrown in there. We're probably going to see more exciting cricket. So if Test cricket and Ben Stokes, probably the captain of the Test side in the country that loves Test cricket the most in terms of has the best attendance, Test cricket is thriving, is having a really attacking brand of cricket. If that's coming from there, do we not just say, well, bloody hell, like, why don't we make it a bit more like T20, make it a day out? Like the races, if you went to Cheltenham races, it's a bit of a day out. Not everyone there loves the races. Not everyone there's kind
Test
of...
cricket probably draws parallel with the races, doesn't it? Bar the dressing up. Unless you're in corporate.
Yeah.
There's got to... what Britain has got is a great sporting calendar.
Yeah.
The Grand National, Six Nations, Wimbledon, the Ashes, football, Europe, World Cups, that kind of thing. There is advancements, and Wimbledon's even managed to do this to an extent, hasn't it? I think they've still modernised and gone with the time.
Yeah.
But beyond that, for like a domestic, tournament, there'd be no interest there, would there? Cricket isn't the only sport that's got the challenge of connecting the past to the future.
Yeah,
but there has been some good things, like what we said. A lot of the things that will sort of contradict me, from the flashing lights of the IPL, are perhaps things I've got to embrace. So it's not just a certain audience. I shouldn't throw too much sort of criticism towards the cricket purists, because there should be a place for them in this game as well. I'm just trying to think, how can we entice more people, and how can in April we get people having that cricket sort of feel. Many cricket fans in this country won't get that cricket sort of fever or feeling until day one of the first test against Australia.
Well, the first test this year is against Ireland,
of course,
which brings us on to our next topic, the third and final thing to try and entice you in April's offering of cricket. Sri Lanka have been playing Ireland. You are obviously work with a few Sri Lankans, so they'll be keeping a close eye on it. And Irish cricket is one of those things that I think all cricket fans would love to see thrive. It's always been a really
a joker in the
interesting.
pack a little bit, aren't they? A
Yes.
little bit could spring a surprise on someone, and for someone
And they
so
have done.
low resourced, they actually make a very good account of themselves. don't
Yeah, and they have done many a time to England on the international stage. So we play our first test against Ireland.
Mhm.
They're currently playing Sri Lanka. Do you have an eye on that? How does that make you feel as an England?
It raises my eyebrows, I must admit. Do I sit and watch it all day? No. Do I think it's great that we're hosting? Well, Ireland are getting some test opportunities. Yes. How long they'll be able to do it for, I don't know. I think Balbirnie has made some statements about how it's a little bit of a, it's something new to them, and it's probably going to take some time. But will they get the opportunities to do it? Is the main thing, and I guess that sort of filters down into my sort of my doldrums sort of tone I said at the start of this podcast. That was, we're seeing teams that have been number one in the world, West Indies, South Africa, have diminished opportunities in Test cricket. So what hope does that give for Ireland? I won't see in the next sort of international schedule Ireland having 5-day tours of India, or Ireland having 5-day tours of
5 test match tours.
Yeah, sorry, 5 test match tours of India, or 5 test match. They're not going to have a Boxing Day test out against Australia.
No.
So I sort of admire it, and then I look at it and go like, it's nice for them. It just feels very token and very, again, almost exhibition driven.
Well,
and is it because people just would rather not tour to Sri Lanka these days? They'd rather fit something else into the schedule. So
Ireland scored a higher test match innings score, higher than anything that England have ever produced in Sri Lanka.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not going there. I mean, they've lost both test matches relatively convincingly, but they're not being embarrassed, kind of thing. They are putting up a show.
Yeah.
Do we think that this is kind of, if we were making the positives about this, if we had a 2-tier structure, as we talked about in the Test Roadshow, we would have Ireland and Sri Lanka would probably in the same group. We could start. Do we need these smaller nations to be playing each other? Is this actually a good step forward?
I think we do, but like you say, with incentive and the roadshow, if you want to, again, this is episode 49, episode 50, Bots Cricket Test Roadshow. We're trying to put forward an idea that allows an equal sort of share of the pie for a lot of teams, and it also allows for more teams to get more touring opportunities and a fair crack at the whip. You're absolutely right. I think with incentive and with teams like those competing, it can create healthy opportunities, healthy competition, but also provide some scope and some ambition for teams trying to aspire to get to those levels of becoming a test nation.
Yeah, because I must admit I'm very heartened in if that's a phrase to use. I think that's off Succession, isn't it? I feel heartened.
Great series.
Yeah. I feel like I can take great heart, whatever the phrase is. I've lost myself here. In the fact that Ireland are playing Test cricket outside of just having one test against Lords, at Lords against England, and that has to be a good thing for Test cricket. Is at least we're still trying. At least somebody's trying. Because in a world where franchise cricket feels like it's dominating and dominating, this going on feels like a positive.
Yeah.
Do you not agree?
No, absolutely. And hopefully we'll see more and more of these opportunities.
Yes.
Shall we have a little look at what's going on in the news?
Go on then.
Have you been reading the journals of late?
I've not, so go on.
So I've got a couple of things. In the spirit of the Ashes, let's try and have things to look forward to. There's been a lot of talk, hasn't there? Have you seen much of the talk from people?
I've seen, I think last time we talked, Robinson was giving it big un.
Yeah.
Brooke was giving it big un about his performances in the IPL. He's not done well since. Well, who's next?
Excuse me. So, it wouldn't be an Ashes without Stuart Broad saying something, would it? So Stuart Broad said a couple of things. And the first one, and I want to ask your opinion on this, because I actually think it's got merit. He was reflecting back on the last Ashes series in Australia. It was still very COVID orientated. If you remember, Pat Cummins missed out a game in which he was COVID positive. I think Travis Head also fell victim to that. Stuart Broad was also saying in his mind this was like a null and void series. It's gone down very well in Australia.
Yeah.
Ian Higgins said last time England won a Test match, the iPhone 4 was out. They have a really funny thing. They do get rattled, Australians, by basic British wit, I find a lot of the time. But I will tell you this, Bot. I actually think there's some validity and merit to what Broad says. It was an absolute shambles of a series. Despite how poor England were, there was facts in that there was things that happened in that Ashes series which I think were very bubble related, things that would not happen on a normal tour. So do you know how it's so limited in what you can do and where you can stay and how much you can prepare yourself from a personal perspective? I don't think you get Ollie Robinson bowling off spin if we've had time to prepare and you can still, there's no boundaries on training or exercise, that kind of thing. I know it sounds like sour grapes and it sounds like, making excuses, but we came from a time where Australia had very, very strict COVID protocols. They were doing very little touring themselves. England were bedraggled through pretty much keeping the Test arena alive, going to India, going to Sri Lanka, going to various other places. Yeah. And I do think, despite its tongue-in-cheek, I do think that we can perhaps look back on it and say that weren't all quite right.
Yeah, I think it was the end of a cycle, wasn't it, with Root and Silverwood. I think Broad is trying to wind them up a bit there. I hope he is trying to wind them up because I suppose Australia were playing under the same conditions. I know they weren't away from home, but it definitely was an Ashes series, and we definitely did put a terrible performance out there. But
what Ashes series?
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully Broad's just winding it up. What's great about all of this talk that's going on at the moment is it's building that series. It's really amplifying that series. I know that Broad said that he felt like there was a 2005 nature to the series.
And this one coming up.
Yeah, this one coming up. And I do think that it feels like there's kind of two sides that are really evenly matched for the first time in a long time.
Well, I don't think we really matched in 05, were we?
Yeah.
No, we were. They were considerably better than us in 2005. It was a massive scalp.
Yeah, but we were like an up and coming side, an aggressive side.
We had a bit of funkiness to us, didn't we? We had a different approach to win. Instead of going over and like, knocking up the same old dross against Australia, Michael Vaughan had a clear sort of plan, didn't he?
Yeah.
And a clear sort of mental attitude towards the game and how they were going to play it.
And I think there's parallels there with Stokes and the Bazball and all that kind of approach. So yeah,
they were picking weaknesses in Australia, weren't they?
Yeah,
well, I think Michael Vaughan assessed a number of flaws in certain Australian batsmen with certain bowlers. I think Hoggard had something on Gilchrist, was it, or something like that. Harmison sort of a bloody ponting, hadn't he?
Yeah.
So there was chinks in the armour sort of starting to appear. If you look at this Australian team, we see a few chinks in the armour already, don't we?
Exactly.
With that in mind, Stuart Broad has been saying that he's been developing an outswinger, which is it's a funny one, really, because I've always kind of associated Broad with having these sorts of deliveries in them. But I don't know, is that a bit of mind games? Because he said it's directly made out for Labuschagne and Smith, which I think will, again, be the threats to England this year, won't they?
It's very Shane Warne, isn't it? It's straight out of the Shane Warne handbook. I've got this new delivery. This is who I'm focusing it on.
Mm-hmm.
Trying the mind games early. I think obviously Broad thinks that he's got to that stage in his career where he's got a bit of an aura.
Mm-hmm.
Fair play to him. Don't mind that at all.
Is this a swan song for Stuart Broad?
Yeah, I think this is the last series. I think whichever is the last test he plays for England, it'll be in this Ashes series and he'll walk out.
England tour to India, I think, next year for a test match series. No. And that's just not where you want to kind of bow out, is it?
Yeah, I think Broad, Anderson is the type. I could see him going on forever. Broad, it feels like he always wants the kind of the story, the spotlight. I think he'll probably go out in the Ashes, yeah.
Okay. Brendan McCullum's talking about shortening the boundaries. Thoughts?
Same for both sides. Not interested. Makes it more interesting. More sixes, more fours. Don't mind it.
I love how these statements are just statements, and then all it's left is just for people like Darryl Lehman to sort of make comment on it.
Yeah,
the design to throw in there is kind of worms, aren't they?
Yeah, it's. You can tell that it's a side that have got a lot of confidence because there's kind of worms flying everywhere at the moment.
A couple of other bits, a bit more on the future of cricket. Did you read about the possibility, and this will not help my mood, of IPL franchises eyeing up 12-month year-round contracts where players would be obliged to play in franchise leagues all over the world? And the rumour has it that there's a number of senior England personnel been lined up to go on with this?
Well,
should they, if an England player decides that, should they be banned from playing for England?
No.
Do you phone a friend?
No, I don't think so. It depends who they are. If it's Josh Butler,
we've got problems, haven't we?
Yeah, we've got problems. We've got big problems.
But you can think about it. If you were going to invest in someone for 12 months, you absolutely want Josh Butler, wouldn't
you would. Liam Livingston, I bet, is one of who's been touted.
Yeah. Moeen
I could see that. It looks like he might be retiring from international cricket soon. It's really tough because that's the problem that we made in the KP days of banning people. It didn't work out for us. You've got to move with the times.
It's a battle we're going to come up against, isn't it?
It's
kind of already happened in the West Indies, hasn't it? They're probably the world's first freelancers. I think Tim Wigmore said that in Crickonomics, didn't he?
Yeah.
Great book, by the way. Please read.
These wouldn't even be freelancers, would they? They'd be permanent employees for the IPL.
Yeah. With the occasional holiday leave.
It'd be like football. It'd be full football, the full football system. It's a really tricky thing for cricket to navigate.
Could you have about how many players are in a squad for the IPL?
25, 30.
Could you have 25 12-month contract players?
No, but you'd want your best ones, and then you just have
domestic players,
and domestic players.
Don't know. It seems lazy, doesn't it?
I could see Archer doing it for Mumbai.
God.
Yeah.
Everyone just wants Jofra Archer fit, don't they? Before we think about any next game or next over he's going to bowl. Finally, to sort of finish off on for this podcast, it's been rumoured that the 100 is getting a serious look at. Obviously, a very, very divisive topic in English cricket over the last so many years. We tried as a podcast to embrace it, I think, haven't we? We've never been devout lovers. We've never been devout haters of it, have we? But we've sort of seen what it was trying to do in terms of bring new audiences in. But as the mask has sort of slipped off, hasn't it, in recent years? And it seems to be more of that of a corporate sort of product to be put in the shop window. I don't know. Where are you sitting on this, and what do you think is sort of sparking these rumours?
So what are the rumours?
The rumours is that it's having a serious consideration of its viability.
What, as in stopping it?
Maybe stopping it, editing it, sacking the whole thing off. I believe it might even be loss-making from a monetary perspective.
Right. I'm not sure about that in the sense of, I know that there's always been an argument of, well, if you take out this pot of money that goes to the counties, then it's loss-making. But if you include it, it's not too bothered about the accounting of it. My big issue with the 100 is I think it should have always been a T20 league. I think it just overcomplicated itself. It's too clever for its own good. I think one day it will get private investment into it. With the way that cricket's going, I think that is just an inevitability. You can't really do much about it. You've sometimes just got to embrace it. And then you've got to decide as a England and Wales Cricket Board, when you sell that product, where does the money go? And I think we want the money to go into the counties.
Yeah.
To invest in the kind of things that we've just been talking about, innovations to keep county cricket alive, and ultimately allow Test cricket to thrive.
I think the problem we all have, and we all have to probably make peace of at some point, is that no franchise tournament is ever going to eclipse the IPL. I don't think from a popularity point of view, or from a commerciality, from a cultural point of view, I don't think anything can ever match what's going on in India.
Yeah.
So that's something that we'll always have to live with.
If the 100 doesn't have serious financial clout, Major League Cricket will just replace it as the...
Well, that's the thing. Has the emergence of Major League Cricket made interest, shares, investment opportunities plunge?
Yeah, or just time to act and private equity to come in, probably more.
Did they turn down that 400 mil? They must have done, mustn't they?
What 400?
There's the 400 mil offer that came in, the private investment money that came in for the 100.
No, I don't know.
Must have done, is it? Because we would have heard about it if not.
Yeah. Who knows? It's a lot of money, that.
Anyway, some interviews coming up on the 212 Men that we're looking forward to bring you in the coming weeks. We want to talk more about the idea and the concept of the World Test Roadshow. Is that what we call it? Roadshow. We want to surface this idea to you more. If you're like me and feel a little bit dejected, a little bit unattached from cricket this time of the year, we suggest you look back on that and you look out for the interviews that come on it. Anything from you?
Nothing from me.
We've been the 212th Men. Enjoy your bank holiday. Enjoy the cricket if you can, and we will see you soon.
See you later.